Welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone's had a good lunch, been fed and watered. I think one of the only drawbacks of a virtual conference is that we're not having those conversations over at the sandwich bar, but I would encourage you to have those conversations in the chat. You've all been a highly engaged bunch this morning, which I've really enjoyed, and it certainly makes my job as chair a lot easier. So do put any thoughts and questions into the chat, and we can answer them or attempt to answer them as we go. So we are now moving on to our last speaker before our panel discussion this afternoon. And our last speaker is Simon Pearson, who is the Professor of Agri-Food Technology at Lincoln University. And Simon, you win the award for the earliest wake up. I know it's 5 a.m. where you are in California, so I hope you've got a large coffee there. Cheers to that. Over to you, Simon. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, well, I was just thinking, well, everyone's having lunch. I've not even had breakfast yet. So, yeah, it's 5 in the morning. So, Kit and I are at the FIAgrE exhibition in California, which is the big agri-robotic event, and it's been absolutely fantastic. And it really proves that AI-enabled machines are really here at scale, and lots of them being commercialized. And it's great. It's great to see. So, it's been great in California. So. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about AI. So to share my screen, is that okay, Olivia? Yeah.
Yes, please. I'll let you know when it's showing. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, got it. So I'm going to talk about agriculture AI, hype or transformational. Just a bit about my role. So I'm Professor of Agri-Food Technology at Lincoln. I do several jobs for government as well, and I'm a member of the Food Standards Agency Science Council, and we've just reviewed the role of AI in the food system, really looking forward, looking at do we need new regulations for specific use cases for AI in the food system, or do we need new standards, or how's it going to affect legal aspects of food safety, all those sorts of things. So we've just done that quite recently. That report will come out in the next few weeks. I'm also advisory group chair of the Bridge AI program, which is a £100 million Innovate UK program for AI applications across four verticals: logistics, construction, creative technologies, and agri-food. And then I'm CEO of a robotic company, Agaricus Robotics, which is mushroom harvesting, which uses AI in its stack, and a director of a AI company, Fruitcast AI, which uses obviously AI in its stack for crop forecasting. So hyper transformational, and I think this is an important thing. And I guess when I reflected about a year ago, I was asked to give a lecture by the Royal AgSoc on AI and hype and stuff like that. And about a year ago, we didn't really have a good view of what AI was going to do, other than that it looked really cool and there's lots of potential going on. And then at that time, I think there was a huge amount of hype. And I did about a year ago, I did this thing where I used ChatGPT and I asked it to design me a strawberry harvester. You can see that on the left. It was absolutely crap. This and that was its view. It's going to be a massive machine which is crushing the strawberries, and not particularly good strawberry harvester. And then I asked it to design me a sheep shearing robot, and there's a very happy looking sheep there, which will never happen. And I thought, well, at the time there's quite a bit of hype, but we're now a year and a half since that talk, and it's been extraordinary the rate that it's been developing, and extraordinary the rate that we're seeing advance in agriculture, particularly. So I think there's still hype around certain niches, but certainly we're starting to see a more transformational outlook for AI. And why do we need the AI? Well, it's absolutely critical. We've got all these massive problems in the food system, which we've got to clear up. We're particularly interested in robotics at Lincoln, and AI is critical. I think what we need to recognise is that all robotic systems, advanced robotic systems, are the physical manifestation of AI. So without AI, robotics don't work, and we're starting to see robotic applications really now coming through, and those are for things like crop harvesting. There's a daffodil picker there. I used to run a daffodil company with 900 pickers, very difficult job. And robotic harvesting is really now starting to come to the fore. We need better productivity. So there's a nice plate of food there. We need to get food prices accessible for all, and that needs technology to drive down to increase productivity, drive down costs, and make the supply chain more sustainable economically. And then we've got climate change and all that sort. So we absolutely desperately need these technologies. I don't think there's a debate. One of the things we forget when we talk about AI is that agriculture operates within the physical world, and it's very easy to get a little bit starstruck with these large language models and all that sort of stuff. The reality is agriculture is a physical process, and so we need a very diverse stack of AI to solve some of our problems. And in this diagram, there's four verticals. There's strawberry, there's a wheat plant, there's a cow, there's a data-driven system. And one represents selective harvesting, one's crop care, one's animal care, one's augmented decision support. And each of those needs a different AI tool, task, or stack, or operating feature. So you need perception on all of them. You got to move around the world. You've got to see the world. You need to manipulate. So that's robotics. You don't need that for decision support, but you do need that if you're working in strawberry picking or handling animals and all those sorts of stuff. You need autonomy, which is critical, and I think there's huge advantages on autonomy in agriculture coming on. We've seen that. I've seen that yesterday at FIAgrE. And that needs not just coordination of one, but fleets of machines across the thing. And you need intelligent decision making. So you need all these things, and they're all different aspects of AI. So it's a very complex scenario. So you can't just talk about one. You can't just talk about AI. You have to be a bit clear about what technique you're using, and you're going to need multiple layers in that stack to solve some of these problems. They're very complex problems. So it's developing at pace. This sort of stuff we do at Lincoln to show that there's not some of it is hype and some of it is reality. So we've been doing an awful lot of robotics. Most of you, many of you have seen that. This is some of the work. This is some of the wheat phenotyping work we've done, where the AI is used for characterizing crops. You see the sensors there. We show new traits to drive wheat yield. We do an awful lot on soft fruit, strawberries. There's an awful lot of work here. This is Saga Robotics that we helped develop at Lincoln, using UVC to reduce powdery mildew on strawberries. The AI there is in the autonomy stack, so it's a topological navigation system. So it's triangulating itself off the poles in the greenhouse at very high accuracy. More autonomy. It's got to be human aware for safety. That means vision systems, cameras to detect people, and then cameras too, and then decision support to then avoid those people. So there's a lot of work going on worker safety around robotics. And here you go. This is the robot going around the corner. There's going to be a person comes around the top of that. It detects the person, stops, so that is another AI enablement. So all these things are AI enabled. This robot's then got to get into that tunnel at high accuracy. It's aligning itself to the rows. It's using AI to do that. That's the triangulation system to get in the navigation stack, and it's now moving forward to the within the greenhouse. And you see the robot world on the right hand side. There's lots to talk about digital twins. All of this has been done in the digital twin. This is fruit cask, where we can now image these fruit using a neural network to detect them. We can detect 3 million fruits a day. We can do an individual forecast for each single fruit, working out when each individual fruit's going to mature, working out its age, and then you can give a really good forecast. And that's a very a large deployment of AI within that vision stack. Okay, and then this is agaricus mushrooms, which is again an AI at Stack where you've got a complex pickup stick problem to harvest the mushrooms. So mushrooms are all clustered together. You've got to work out where they are. You've got to work out which one to pick using AI and the direction you pick it so you don't bruise the neighboring mushroom. So it grabs it, it tilts it out, and then it lifts it off, and then it'll take it away for the thing. So that's another AI-enabled robotic machine. Um, and then finally, just show you. Let's move forward. A bit more of the hype side. We've also been doing stuff. We did this last year. One of our PhD students. Uh, we were looking at other applications. So this is where we used a Boston Dynamic robot dog to as a sheepdog. And it's pretty fair. Look at the sheep looking at, and they're actually looking for the robot's eyes, and so this is really hype. And the reason this is hype is because the battery on that thing is only about 40 minutes, and the battery on a dog is much longer. So, so I think the dog's going to survive a lot longer than that robot. But these are sorts of things you can do, and it all creates a bit of excitement. We do it. We're interested in the excitement because it's trying to attract people into our world of agriculture, particularly students and things like that. And then there's some serious stuff here. You can see the flocking behaviour of the sheep. We've used AI to recognise the sheep, and you can see that the sheep moving across the plane. So there's a bit of hype, but a lot of reality. I think we've got to think about the future of AI, future work on AI really carefully. And I did a piece with George Eustace about 2 years ago, and we're thinking about the roles of AI and the nature of work. And basically, what AI will do, what large language models will do, they replace cognitive jobs. So they will replace things like not replace, they will augment people so people with cognitive jobs. So might be lawyers, might be um, accountants, all that sort of stuff. But they're not very good at replacing dexterous jobs. So what our argument was that actually it's going to rebalance the job roles in agriculture, and so we're going to see more of a focus on people who with dexterous skills and all those skills, which are harder to replace, but those skills can be replaced by robotics. So it is going to disrupt the whole of agriculture. We did a paper quite recently, and we looked at job roles in agriculture. We worked out, I think, 25% of all job roles in agriculture could be replaced by a large language model. About another 20% were highly disrupted by a large language model, and the rest were dexterous jobs, and they could be highly disrupted by robotics. So in 5 years' time, agriculture is not going to look like anything like it is today. And I mean 5 years, it's that quick. We got starting to see adoption on farm. This is my world, so fresh produce. Some of the things that are really exciting me at the moment. So Forval Saga, they've got robots across 20% of all UK fruit doing soft fruit casts. We're on about 15% of UK fruit. Dogtooth's got actual sales now, robotics for fruit picking, which is a big breakthrough moment for fruit picking. Garford's, I think John Henry's been on earlier. I missed you, John Henry. I do apologise. It's probably about 2 in the morning when you're on, but doing amazing stuff with robot hoeing. Fieldwork Robotics on Raspberry's doing very well. Agaricus is very close. Eco Robotics just got 100 million, and that's a spot sprayer of investment. And then at FIAgrE, there's just massive investment going on in the US, and we're starting to see some really big machines coming through. So where's it going next? We looked at this for standards and regulation for the FSA. I think the broad conclusion was that we need standards for AI. So standards for when farmers buy a thing, does it work? How effective is it? Can I rely on it? All that sort. So real operational standards. The evidence yet is that we don't necessarily need new regulations at the moment because there's not a lot of use case evidence to suggest that new regulations need. There'll be regulations for AI, but regulations for AI in agriculture At the moment, there's no evidence that we need any because existing law is pretty robust. One of the big weaknesses may be things like explainability. So if you've got a food safety incident, you've got to explain um, uh, why that has happened for your due diligence defence. If you can't explain your behaviour, that then weakens your due diligence defence. So we've got to really think about that really carefully in terms of the way that we operate some of these systems. So I think that's the bit that will open up. But at the moment, it's standards. So does it work? If I've got a weeding robot and it's identifying weeds, does it identify those weeds? Is it spraying the pesticide in the right place, not in the wrong place, and all those? And we need standards for that. So I think that's going to develop really quite quickly, and I think government will get behind that. I think the industry needs to be getting behind that, and we need some codes of practice, I think, from the industry to give trust and confidence of the users, and also to inform the developers about what targets they need to be aiming for. I think that'd be really helpful. Um, the really exciting thing is some of the new AI which is coming. I think I heard the word agentic AI and stuff like that. That's all moving. Yesterday's breakthrough moment for me, and one of the big talks was this VLA architecture, so vision, language, action models. So we're getting close to a world where these models combine reasoning engines, so knowledge graphs with LLMs, and really step forward operational use. So imagine a world where you can say to a farmer can say in the morning, go and plough field X. And what the KG LLM will actually go, okay, let me think about how I do that ploughing. I need a tractor, I need a plough, I need to get it to that field there. I'm going to route plan it that way. When I get in that field, I'm going to operate off this direction. I'm going to start in this point. I'm going to end in that point, and then it will plan the whole lot. So imagine a world where the farmer just goes plough that field. We're literally, according to the guys yesterday, 6 to 12 months away from that world. So imagine you're a tractor driver with an extraordinary amount of complex instruments that you've got to use on that machine. We're very, very close to actually making all that very, very, very simple in terms of the operator use. So watch out for VLAs and KG LLMs. Very exciting, and that was announced yesterday. We're going to start to see use of foundation models in agriculture. So that's some of these bigger architectures. And that might be to enable better benchmarking, to really understand what's going on in fields. So aggregating massive amounts of data from many farmers as possible to really then help inform other farmers how to improve. So big foundation models, I think, are going to come through quite quickly. I know some of the big co-ops, Syngenta, all those people are looking at that. But I think we need something for farmers to get involved in that. And then we might actually get to AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, and that's the Terminator moment. There's a little, almost looks like a massive 135 with Clive Blacker on it. But that's the world where artificial intelligence should have the reasoning capability of a human. And there's a lot of debate around when that's going to happen. I think it probably will happen one day, but whether it's in our lifetimes, I don't know. It's really hard to judge. The technology development is really quick. So I'll close it out. Hyper transformation. 18 months ago, there was a lot of hype. I think it's now transformation. And I was at an agricultural show. It was in the summer, and they had a small display area with businesses sort of showing there. Where I went around there, and there's about 20 companies on display. 10 of them were selling an AI-enabled piece of equipment, and it just struck me, and that's absolutely come from nowhere. I think the year before it was probably one or two. There's now 10, 50% of all the equipment on display was using AI in one form or another. So there you go. It's there has been hype, but I think it's now absolutely transformational. So that's it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon, for that brilliant presentation. Excellent use of AI image generation as well.
Thank you
Particularly
very
enjoyed
much.
those. Bit scary. I'm glad to see that the strawberry robot harvesters have come on from that first iteration.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's here now, isn't it? And it's about how we can integrate it into businesses. I was quite struck. but by your comment around how students are reacting to AI, it's exciting, isn't it? How is it helping to shape the engineers of the future, and how do you think that might transpire over the coming months and
Yeah,
years?
that's a great question. I mean, basically, again, their work's changed, and what you can do now, it's extraordinary. In terms of even a year or two ago. Now coding, for example, which is primarily a function of computer science, suddenly that's become very easy. So all of that sort of functional stuff has gone, and what we really hope is they now concentrate on the sort of really developing the advanced skills, and hopefully they'll be more creative and coming up with better ideas. So it's taken out some of the drudgery and it's accelerating pace, and we're seeing this pace of development really, really ramping up all over, and it makes it exciting. I think it's great to actually showcase for students. Well, come into our world. It's really interesting, and you can get a great job and using some very advanced technologies. So yeah.
Good stuff. And how can so obviously you're across this. You're obviously out in California at the moment, looking at the latest technology and how it's been implemented. How is this technology and how's the information and all these insights? How are they being filtered down into businesses? And I'm particularly talking about farmers in the field. How is that coming down to
Yeah.
real world scenarios?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I think the key thing, the key adoption challenge here is it's really ease of use, and and I was really encouraged yesterday with these VLA, vision language action model things, because they're really now thinking around that ease of use thing. And if you're a farmer, you don't really, as an engineer, you don't really need to know how these nuts and bolts, how these things work, as long as you can use them reliably and have a good understanding of what's going on if there's a problem. And some of these new technologies, these VLAs, I just thought were outstanding. So you could just sort of talk to the thing and it go off and do what you want. That is a year away, but we're very, very close to that. And that's all about ease of use to ease adoption and all those sorts of things. So I think if we break that back of that question, I think you're going to see another step change of adoption, because there is fear. There is a bit of fear. If people buy it, do I trust it? The big thing in California is if I buy it from a company and that company has been bought out and it doesn't exist in 2 years' time, have I got a dud and I can't use it and all those sorts of things. So there's going to be a little bit of disruption, I think, as while all that stuff settles down. Um, but John Deere, the big guns, and AGCO, I'm sure, are buying into these technologies now. So as the startups are growing, they're becoming acquired, and if they're going into the bigger companies, it's more stable. You've got more professional um, uh, environment to support these machines, all that sort of stuff, and I think that's a good thing.
And
Um,
I guess that runs in parallel as well with the question over, regulation and that regulatory environment, standards. Um, is there anyone or anybody that kind of leads on this in terms of who sets this? Should it be, we look at the UK, should it be the government? Where do you think that should sit? Who do you think that should sit with in terms of leadership?
well, that's almost a political question, and my own political view of it is that the last people I want to lead it would be the government. Yeah, sorry.
I think many would agree on the call. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I think it's absolutely critical. It's industry led. Um, so I think the place of last resort is the government. So if things really do go wrong, you've got to have the government coming in and put those regulations in. But as I said, there isn't any evidence yet that we need new regulations, but there's lots of evidence we need standards. And I think as case law develops, there might be more evidence to regulations. And you usually find that regulations are a follower. So stuff goes horribly wrong, and then they regulate. One of the
Yep.
dangers is if you regulate in advance. I think the biggest example of a danger of regulation is the EU AI Act, which actually they went early to try and put regulations in advance, and I'd say they've got it a little bit wrong. They've gone too early, and it's actually suppressing innovation because now people are having to develop AI systems in a regulated way, which might not necessarily what the industry needs. So I think a little bit of patience, waiting, which the UK's done, is probably good, and we'll see that develop. But it's standards that we need, and I think they need to be industry led. where you got people like BSI should be involved to agree it, but you need the industry saying what the standards should be, and that is end users, farmers, and also the equipment manufacturers. Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
And we've got just to remind people that we have got some time for questions before we move to the panel. So there's some coming in here. So I'll just field a few of these at you, Simon. So question from Mark More: will AI products focus on high value crops such as strawberries? What is the role of AI in broad acre farming when you need to get over the hectares in the window of opportunity? Looking at work rates per hour and hectare an hour
Yeah.
is essential.
Yeah. Well, just want to, back to the VLAs again. I just thought, in terms of the way that, well, if you think of all modern machines, actually, combines, the camera controls, they're AI enabled, the navigation systems will be AI enabled. And that's the thing, there's AI creeping everywhere in these machines. And some of it people don't realize, and which I find really interesting. But I really like the notion of these VLAs where you can actually just simply say, "Oh, go plough that field," and then the AI does it all. And really taking out all of the operator complexity, and maybe that's where it will come in. One of the primary reasons we've seen a lot of big machines in California being AI enabled is they don't have enough tractor drivers. And I was never a particular believer that we'd see a lot of agricultural autonomy until yesterday, really. And I sort of thought, oh, blimey, actually, this is coming quite quick. And California's showing the way because they've literally run out of tractor drivers.
Yeah, I think the point you make about workforce challenges and how it might aid the recruitment challenges that the industry faces is certainly
Yeah,
something to think about, isn't it?
yeah.
Someone has raised the point about service engineers to fix inevitable problems and how that will be a continuing headache. I mean, how do you see that kind of
Yeah,
technical expertise?
yeah, yeah, it's really interesting. There's some terrific discussion yesterday on business models, and the California VC business model was interesting because lots of them wanted to do a service-based model where you hire a robot and you charge per acre or something like that. The absolute kickback was that farmers are saying, "I don't want service model. I want to buy the machine." So it almost felt that the day of the VC-based service model for robots, it died for me yesterday. And so that means farmers are going to want to buy machines and they are going to want servicing. And I do come to this back to that point where I do hope we'll see some of the bigger companies getting really involved in it because there is a big fear. If you've got lots of, if you're a small company, it's hard to service, it's expensive to service. You might not have the capability, the networks to do it. And so I think I could see quite an important role for sort of big ag getting involved in that. So and you see the world where the startups do the innovation, and hopefully the big technologies get acquired. But I don't know, or you could have a world where a robotic roll-up comes and becomes a new big ag. I don't know. It's going to be quite interesting. Um, Very hard to predict how it's going to develop.
I was reading something a few weeks ago that will become AI's pets eventually. I'm quite looking forward to just being, yeah, fed and
Oh,
watered by AI.
I've got a pet rabbit. I can't say no. I don't fancy being that.